Thank you guys for being here today. It's always strange that we celebrate Rudi's birthday and then his Samadhi day within such a short period of time. He had just turned, I think, 45. And then a month later, he was flying up north to give a talk. And as you all know the story, his plane crashed into the side of a mountain, a small plane. Bo Buchanan, who was piloting, and the other people on the plane survived. Rudi's last words were a deeper sense of surrender. He was dictating as he was flying. And of course, we all imagine the death of a great teacher being a noble experience. Someone who quietly steps out of their physical frame and you can hardly tell they're gone. But Rudi was blindsided, and as many of us will be, by demise, by the departure from this body. And in a certain sense, the real journey is to learn how to so accept every moment that even the final one is acceptance. Also, we don't always run into a teacher in our lives who has such a profound impact. And Rudi's impact on me was instantaneous. I know I've told this story year after year, it's been 48 years now. I'm trying to sell him some Tibetan carpets, and he was not interested, but he asked where I got them, and I said in India. And he said, "What were you doing there?" And I said, "I was looking for a teacher." He said, "Did you find one?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, I can teach you everything you want to know." And of course, I knew that was true. The minute he said it, I knew it was true. That doesn't happen often. I met a lot of other teachers that did not ring true for me. There were things about Rudi that were remarkable, so much about him, but one was the balance of his inner and outer nature, his life activities, his day-to-day reality was so grounded in the world, so much part of his business of selling art, of selling Asian art primarily, and being able to bring these pieces that speak to this deeper dimension into the lives of many people, some of whom never would know more about it than the beauty of the art itself. And then he had this practice, and he taught, and he had a gift. And I'll tell you, his gift was, you can call it energetic. He was able to transmit this deeper sense of surrender to anyone in front of him. Sometimes they knew it and they were gathered together as a class to receive. Sometimes they were just buying something in his store. But he would transmit this enormous sense of connectivity. You walked away from him knowing, boy, that was an interesting guy. Wow, good salesman. You felt something. But when you opened yourself up to him as a teacher, you gave him permission for enormous access to one's psyche, one's being. And when you gave permission for that, you basically allowed for the possibility of real transformation as a person. What I love so much about Rudi was that he had a day-to-day real life, and he had the balance of a real inner spiritual life, and they became a singular content. And he was able to give to us both physically, emotionally, spiritually, in all dimensions. He was a giver of this incredible energy, knowledge, directivity, wisdom. And in so many ways, he truly saved my life. I don't think I would be sitting here. I know I wouldn't without him. But on so many other levels, he was the force that held it together. Blanche went to see him one day after we'd been together about a year and a half and said, I don't know if I can do this with Bruce. I don't know if we can, I don't know if I should be a couple. And she was looking for a way out. And Rudi said to her, you know, Blanche, if you let go of Bruce now, you're only going to meet another schmuck just like him. So you might as well stick with him. I'm telling you, I wouldn't be here right now if he had not given her that advice in those terms. And his grit as a human being was so amazing. And what I realized over time as a teacher is what incredible density he had to deal with all of us. Every one of us was a problem to be solved, really, because we came at him as young, mostly untapped, unprepared people trying to make our way through the world. And many of us, I think, were looking for the spiritual side to kind of replace or, in a sense, dominate our experience in life itself. And he didn't want that. He wanted us to have foundation. He wanted us to have life with a career, with stability, with whatever it is that makes life dynamic. And he knew that living a life was the key to the spiritual journey. I know it's possible to live in a cave and sit and meditate for your whole life, and there's nothing inappropriate about that. But Rudi's teaching was engagement. Get out there and touch life and let it affect you, let it work you, and then do the work from the inside out so that you have to respond to all of these amazingly demanding and difficult circumstances that life brings to you. And each one of them becomes a teacher. Every part of your life is a teaching in how to open, accept, allow, and ultimately free yourself from the confines of life. And the danger of sitting under the bo tree or sitting in a cave is, what do you do when you go back into the world? Well, if you're lucky and you're Buddha, you understand all of this reality that everybody's inhabiting, and you are able to do these things that you learn in meditation, to accept, to allow, to surrender. But many people come out of their time in the cave and 2 days later they're having fights with their parents or their person around the corner. There's not always an ability to live separate from the world and yet engage the world. And engagement is part of what Rudi taught us. And he went out of his way to teach us. And he knew I wanted to be a writer. And so one day he gave me a sheet of songs he had written. And he said, write a musical. And it was like, I was so unprepared for that as an offering. And I looked at the songs and I went, oh my God, I don't know how to put these together. I have no idea. And he just said, do it. And so I wrote this musical. It was called Big Black Rainbow, I believe. And it was not very good. The songs were not all that good. He had other people in class composing the music, not all that good. But I don't think he cared. I think all he cared about was get engaged, start writing, start doing this thing you say you want to do. And I really believe I owe my entire career to his pushing me forward by actually giving me the material to start working. So I owe him my career, I owe him my marriage, I owe him my spiritual life. It's hard to owe somebody that much. And yet, you know, that's what a spiritual teacher does. That's what someone who grows spiritually becomes capable of. We are out there to dynamically help and service the people who come into our presence, whoever that may be. And you don't ask the why of it, you just simply go, yes. And you open and embrace and love and find a way into loving the other, whoever that may be. And Rudi's capacity for that was extraordinary. He used to say to me, you know, Bruce, this world is the Bellevue of the solar system, the insane asylum of the solar system. And I got it. I still get it. Most people I know are crazy on some level or another. Very few people function all that well. Most of us are very self-absorbed, self-directed, thinking, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get freer of all of our tensions and dramas and stresses and all the stuff we go through, and often making bad choices. And Rudi looked at all of us like that, and he just said, okay, let us all sit together, be quiet for 45 minutes, whatever it took, and he would just look at us. And as he looked at us, he did something that was basically unexperienced for me before that, was the sharing of something he called Shaktipa, which is a kind of dynamic energy that if you open and gaze into the person sending it to you, is experiential, impactful. It goes inside and it pushes away your resistance, it pushes away your fear, it pushes away all of the stuff in you that is thinking, I don't believe this, what is this all about? It just pushed it away. And there was something that happened in each of us in this classroom that would suddenly feel the absence of ourself. And what we would experience instead was this collective comfort zone, this unity, this sense of wholeness, this sense that it's okay, that we'll make this, we can get through. And it was a collective experience in the whole class. And the person sitting down at the beginning of a Rudi class was not the person getting up at the end of it, because you felt lighter. Something had been removed. Something had been, the darkness had had light thrown into the middle of it. There was a quality of just joy that came out of that class. And he taught a lot of classes, more than we do here. I mean, there are classes, at one point every morning you can go to a class at his house and had other people teaching. But you always, all of these classes were moments of dropping off major sections of oneself and finding a new space, an openness, a clarity, an ability to be something more than you were before you walked in the door to go in that class. And in the beginning, it was really dynamic. And I know I've shared this with you. Rudi would look at you in the eye and send this energy force, and I would fall off my chair, just like explode with energy. And I would always find myself on the floor. And then I would end up sitting on a pillow instead of on a chair, because the journey to the floor was longer than I wanted it to be. And I knew I had been impacted. And then I kept looking for him to push these buttons to make me fall, basically. And after a while, it became about falling more than anything else. And I had a moment with Swami Muktananda, Rudi's teacher at the time, who said to me, stop that. Stop that falling. Stop that Shakti experience. Just be light with it. And I didn't know why he was saying that to me. But I know I started to tune it down, and I started to be less reactive and more available, more just there. And I felt as I did this that I was becoming more and more available in a non-reactive sense to this wash of energy that came through and just cleansed the space. It just cleared it out over and over. And then Rudi said, you have to do this every day, not just with him. He's not the only person in charge of this. You are. And you have to go home and do the work. And I would go home, and every day, every morning, I would get up. The first thing I did after brushing my teeth was sit at the altar with Rudi's picture and take this energy. And day after day after day after day, it played its role inside and cleansed me, cleaned me out. And that work continues to this moment. And I don't know how to express other than the fact that you are all here, so you have a knowledge of what I'm talking about. But it is a life's work, as he said. It goes on and on. And one of the things I keep expressing to you now as I'm getting to be an old guy is this is when you need it. This moment in life, this moment where everything starts to change and get sort of taken away, and diminishment and dissolution, all of that starts to happen. The training ground for that is this practice. It's letting go and learning how to be absence of a sense of grief and absence of a sense of loss, and just find your way into this extraordinary state that is still vibrantly alive, still part of the madhouse of the universe. We're all living still in an insane asylum, and it's more clearly that now than perhaps ever. And yet, there is this remarkable spaciousness in us, this availability, this openness. And the more we let go of our defining sense of limitation of who we are, just let it go, the more we become one with this very thing we experienced in Rudi's presence and in the class, this beginning of a sense of totality, of the absolute, of being one entity. And you know, there are probably a lot of people on the planet teaching this. There are probably a lot of approaches to it, and I can't talk about all the other approaches, but I will tell you the thing I love about what Rudi gave me beyond my life, beyond my marriage, is this sense of profound purpose, that it is an unfolding, it is ongoing, it is an escape, if you will, from the limitations of your own sensibilities, and an arrival at something that is worth finding. And the journey is worth it. And the big thing I have learned in the course of this many, many years is, and I've said this now many times, so it's not new for you, but rather than finally arriving at that, whatever that is, I have arrived at this. That's a big distinction. Getting there is not the same as arriving or being here. Being here is the real extraordinary revelation that occurs in the unfolding of a spiritual life. The there that you're trying to get to always has a future tense quality to it. The here, the this, rather than the that. The this of it is at the core. Had Rudi not been killed in that airplane crash, perhaps I would have understood that and gotten to that point. Perhaps he would have talked about that more readily and clearly. I'll never know. But in a way, the gift of Rudi's departure from this world, and it's a gift that I think we all have, is the knowledge that it's not up to the teacher to walk us through the door. The teacher points to the door. He can even open it. But you have to walk through. And you walk through not into the future, but into the now, into the present tense. You walk into this. And every one of you is sitting in this. You're not sitting in that. You're sitting in this. And I don't know how Rudi's teaching essentially brought that truth into play, but it has. And all I can do is share that sensibility with the understanding that each of you knows the doorway. Each of you has opened that doorway. Each of you has been welcomed inside. And the practice now is, no matter what goes on in your day-to-day life, which is real, foundational, fundamental, and important, that you stay in the this of it. You don't try to get to the that. You don't try to get to the what will happen. You try to get to what is happening. What is. And you try to find the teaching in it, because every second of your life is a teaching. And I know Rudi knew that. And I know the reason he was trying to take all of us very unformed kids and turn us into responsible adults was because he knew you needed to stand on firm ground in order to sustain and support the dynamic of being present. If you are infantile in your sensibility, you will always be looking for that. Always. You'll always be waiting to get there. You'll always find that this isn't enough, it should be more. Rudi tried to make this enough. Enough in a fundamental sense, not like I've got everything, although in some ways we do, but that I own and accept this with true authenticity. I accept my being as I am, with all of its failings, with all of its madness, with all of its incompletion, with all of its resentments and regrets. Also, I accept. That's the training. And when you have a really dynamic life, you'll be given a lot of opportunity to work. And that's why Rudi called it work. He didn't say this is past tense or passive experience. This is right now work. And what you have to open to is the what is happening right now. And of course, all of us are in the most absurd of all conditions. We're all locked in a world of communality where everyone is stuck. Everyone is stuck in the same experience in a way. Of course, we're all processing it with our own private sort of sensibilities, but we are all collectively, communally together. We have an opportunity in a way to look at this pandemic moment as a kind of amazing class. We're all learning together. We're all in it together. We're all in this, not that. We're all in this. And some people are freaking out, and some people are throwing their food on the floor, and some people are saying, I don't want to be here. It's a madhouse. This is the Bellevue of the solar system. But there are also people who are very quiet, very centered, very allowing, going, I get it. We are in this upheaval for a reason, maybe just to know that we're in it together, and we are in it together, and to love each other as deeply as we can while we're going through this, to show up for one another and to be part of something greater than ourselves. The last time I saw Rudi, this is an odd moment, but my mother had died the day before. And I was at my brother's house, and I'm in a bedroom in his basement, and I'm lying there by myself in great grief and sadness. And all of a sudden, the door opens, and I look up, and Rudi walks in the room. And I went, wow. He doesn't even say hello. He just walks in the room, and behind him is my grandmother, my mother's mother, who was the source of everything that has to do with love in my life. She was the doorway into love. And she walks in the room, and I am astounded to see my grandmother, Minnie. And Minnie walks over to me. She climbs on the bed. She lays on top of me and enters my body and gone. And I am like, I didn't know what to make of it. And then I look up, and now my mother is walking through the room, and she comes over to me, another incredible source of love. She does the same thing. She climbs on top of me, and she goes, and she's gone, absorbed. And then I'm lying there in a state of awe, overwhelmed by emotion. And suddenly it hits me. Rudi was just there. He brought them in the room. And then he left. This was many years after he died. This experience was, you can call it hallucinogenic or visionary or whatever you want to call it. But Rudi appeared, and he brought the two most other important people in my entire life to me from, if you will, the other side, gave them to me as an unbelievable gift, and left. So here is this person who was physical, powerful, present, energetic in the world, and now he's arriving as this person of kindness, giving me this moment with my mom and my grandmother. What that means, I mean, you can all make up your own stories for what that means, whether it's real or not real, or however it may play out in your mind. But for me, it was the doorway into the infinite and into the ultimate kindness and goodness and love of this universe we inhabit. And however insane it may be, however crazy it may be, there are people who appear in your life who have the capacity to be good and kind and to energize you with their particular gift. And everybody's gift is different. I am not Rudi, and you all know that. I mean, those of you who knew Rudi, you know, I'm not a purveyor of vast Shaktipat, but I do have a capacity to love that was nurtured by Rudi, that was exposed to me by Rudi, and was really funneled and channeled back into the world, and I continue to do that. But that energy of love that comes through is really my grandmother and my mother, but it's also Rudi. And it really knows where to go. It knows what to do. I have learned how to let go and just let it function. And what happens when I teach this class is that Rudi is teaching the class. That I open to this channel of love. You don't have to give it a name. You don't have to give it a history. It's just present tense. And remarkably, it loves you guys. It loves each of you deeply and profoundly. And if you can open up to being loved that much, it will burn away, wash away, cleanse everything in you and open you to what is, which happens to be present tense around you at every moment. The what is of life is what we're all aiming for, what we're all learning. The what could be, might be, will be, it will arrive. This is what is. And Rudi, for me, was that doorway to understanding and learning that. And I am simply continuing a practice of exposing you to that. So today is a day that one celebrates having someone like that in their life. It doesn't happen for everybody. You know lots of people who have not even begun to consider the possibility of this dimensional reality that Rudi presents. You have been given the gift of his energy, and it's really, really important to say thank you to Rudi, to just put it out there. Just say thank you, and let that fill the space you're in, and then you can spend your day in that space or your life in that space. If you do it regularly, you're surrounded by that energy, and that energy is yours. It's Rudi's whole job and desire was to give it over. My whole job is just be a channel. Let it work. Your job, take it in and let it flow to everybody around you. There we are. That's our job. The insane asylum of the planetary existence starts to get altered by you. by your kindness, your goodness, your love, your connection to others. That's what it's really about. And in the end, we'll find out. But I can tell you, I don't know how this works. I don't understand the larger scheme of things exactly. But Rudi came back from the other side and brought my mom and grandmother to me as a kind of closure and completion in an act of kindness and goodness that is beyond understanding. And Rudi gave me my marriage, he gave me my spiritual life, and whatever that is that one person can offer to another, all we can do is say thank you. So I'm saying that to you, and also you guys are. Without you, I have no. I mean, I guess I would still be here, but to celebrate Rudi with you is much greater than anything else I can do, and I appreciate your showing up for that. So happy Samadhi to Rudi, although happy is a strange word for that, but it's a great moment that one passes from one world to the other, and somehow those worlds come together. Any questions? I'm sorry we're not having a big dinner or a movie, but again, if you want to watch movies about Rudi, they're online. Swami Rudrananda, Rudi, and you can watch and enjoy. But the reality is, it's all in here. It's really all inside. You guys, there's not one of you who doesn't have it inside you. Not one of you. Every one of you has been connected to this, and every one of you is a carrier. You are a transmitter of something remarkable. So transmit it. I'll ask one more time for questions. George, is that?
I just want to make a comment. I mean, I just remember the day Rudi died. There was this reality that everything was falling apart and we all had to do it by ourselves, that Rudi wasn't there to do it for us. And I think that was a great teaching in that sense. Yeah.
I agree with you completely. I mean, to have a teacher to the end of your life, in a sense, holding your hand every step of the way, it's like having a parent who's holding your hand when you're 60 years old. It's kind of like not exactly what's wanted. You need to find how to walk and how to move on your own. And Rudi really did teach us that. And the loss of Rudi was really traumatic on some level and yet liberating on another. And I think those of us who are still around knew that and still do know that. I mean, it was a real gift. His departure was a great gift.
It was terrifying.
Yeah, it was terrifying. Yeah. And it was also, if I was going to write the story, I would like to write the story where we're all gathered around the bedside and saying goodbye. That's not the version he presented, and yet what he presented was an incredible teaching. Jenna, did you? Oh, okay. Anybody else?
I just wanted to share from what your talk and George's comment that it just reminded me of a quote from Nityananda I thought I'd just share in case people haven't heard it, but it's the outer guru points to the well and the inner guru drinks from the well. It's the one that drinks. I kind of like that.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, look, we're all becoming the guru in the end. I mean, we're all becoming our own teacher, and the lessons that we're all finding come from that well that you drink from. It's all there, and I think as much as Rudi wrote and said many things that were all very instructive, in the end, the things that he was espousing are already inside each of us, and we have to find it for ourselves. And I mean, I've spent 50 years sitting at that and drinking from that well, and it'll keep you going. It's pretty extraordinary. Everybody tapped out here? Okay. Thank you for coming. Again, you can light a candle, or you can just say thank you to Rudi, or eat a bagel or something and feel present with him. I love that you were here, and I appreciate it. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. So stay well, everybody, and enjoy the California weather because it's not New York. And you're very, very lucky. So enjoy. Much love.